Hello, everyone. I'm Karen MacNeil, author of the Wine Bible and editor of the digital newsletter Wine Speed. And this is a live virtual tasting with Charles de Bournet, CEO of the famous Chilean winery LAPOSTOLLE. In 1994, when Charles's family, the MacNeil LAPOSTOLLE family, brought French know-how to the absolutely special terroir of Apalta in the Colchagua region of Chile, a new era in Chilean fine wine was born. So thank you all for being here. I'm sorry we had a bit of a technical difficulty earlier, but thank you all for being here. We're going to have a fun tasting and have a great time talking with Charles. Charles, welcome. I'm so glad to see you. And if you don't mind, I just want to quickly put up a map of Chile for all of our viewers, because Chile exists in almost perfect isolation, 2,700 miles of Pacific coastline on its west, and on the east, it is bordered by the giant Andes Mountains. You can see there Santiago, almost in the middle of Chile, and the Apalta region, this very famous terroir, is just south of Santiago. So, Charles, tell us, to start out, please tell us how it happened that your mother, Alexandre, and your father, Charles de Bournet, who are both French, of course, happened to come upon this tiny gem of a region in the center of Chile.
Well, my family has been in the industry, so in the wine and spirits industry for quite a bit. I am the seventh generation. The company is still family owned and operated. And we started in 1827 in France. We're very famous for our spirits, Grand Marnier, of course, in cognac, and in 1919, my great grandfather bought the Château de Sancerre in the Loire region. So it's mainly Sauvignon Blanc, beautiful Sauvignon Blanc. And my parents at the end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s, they were looking really into expanding in the wine part of our business. And they wanted to go more red, of course. When you're in Sancerre, it's mainly whites. And so we started to look around different countries, and they were very interested in the Southern Hemisphere, because mostly the old world, everything was done. And so they were looking to something new, something to discover. And we, they had heard that Chile never had the phylloxera for the reasons you mentioned. So Chile is the only phylloxera-free country. Because, as you said, you have the Pacific coast on the west, the Andes Mountains on the east, but on the north of Chile, you have the Atacama Desert, which is the highest and driest desert in the world. It's actually drier than the Sahara. So, and at the south, you have Patagonia, where there's so many glaciers and wind. The wind is so strong that the trees are going sideways. So that's why there's no pest that can actually enter Chile, because, as you said, it's an island and it's naturally protected. So unless something is brought by human beings, there's no pest that can enter Chile. And that's why now, we've seen the past 2 years how a disease can go from one country to another one quite easily. We've all lived through this pandemic, but 150 years ago, that wasn't the case. So that's why Chile actually never had phylloxera. And what happened is that the vines that were brought by the French winemakers in the mid 19th centuries survived, and it's the only country where they actually survived in a very big scale, not just small pots here and there. And so my parents were very intrigued and said, well, what happened? What happened there, and so on. So they went to visit Chile, and they started visiting around Santiago in the Maipo region and so on, blah, blah, blah. And suddenly a friend of theirs said, look, there's this family, they have a vineyard there in a place in Colchagua. And they walked in, they went there. There was not even a road to get there. It was this little dirt road, now you come there and you think it's full of modernity with a great road to go there and so on, but not even a little dirt road. And they suddenly enter this place and they see this beautiful valley, the Apalta, with the mountains, and there, like vines so old. They were like, they couldn't believe how old were these vines. And they asked the person, but when was this planted? And there's like, that was from, I don't know, this was always my family, it was my grandparents and so on. And then doing some research, we realized that, these vines were planted, actually, you never know exactly, but it's between 1910 and 1920. And that is amazing because you say, this as Europeans, as French, we don't have this in France, pre-phylloxeric, 100% Pied Franc, like engrafted vines, Cabernet Sauvignon. And this parcelle is the parcelle, the 8 is the name of the parcelle, the 8th parcelle. And that's then when my parents saw that, they knew that they had found something very unique in the world, because if vines could survive for 100 years on their own, literally, no irrigation, nothing, it means you have a special place, a special terroir.
It's amazing to think that in a way, you were going back to your own heritage, that Chile possessed this original French plant material that no longer even lived in France itself. I met your mother once on a trip when I was researching the Wine Bible. She's quite a formidable woman, isn't she?
Well, she's my mom, so of course, I have the highest opinion of her, but it's quite subjective. But from what I'm told by people that met her, they tend to agree with you that she's quite interesting character.
Yes. In thinking about LAPOSTOLLE and in reading about it in the past, Charles, I know that you've said that LAPOSTOLLE, the winery and the wines are Chilean by birth, but French in essence. I wonder if you could expand on that. What do you mean exactly?
Well, I mean, it's, when you, we're French, we're not in our country. We're in Chile, and we have to be respectful of the culture, of the people, and of the terroir. So our idea was never to come and say, you know what, we're French, typical, cocorico, as we said, and we're going to show you how to do wine, and we're going to do this, and we're going to make a French wine. It's actually the opposite. For us, it was, what's our point of view is, a wine should be a true reflection of the place it comes from. Then the technique to do so, yes, these are French technique, because this is what we know. We're French, and we admit that the French, when it comes to winemaking, they know quite a bit. So our idea was to have a true respect of the raw material, which are the grapes, and to make a wine that is a true reflection of Apalta, that is a Chilean. So that's why it's by birth is Chilean, but in essence, it's a French wine, because all the techniques that we apply to express the grapes, to express the vineyard, to really treat the vineyard, are French technique. And we look also for, I would say, a French style of wine, which for us, it's also, what we really appreciate in France is that you have elegance, but you have balance. And that's something that really we look for in our wines. So we don't want to be a fruit bomb, but we don't want to be like uber elegant on the other side, because, for us, we drink quite a bit of wine and a lot during meals. So we want wines that really go well with the food. So for us, food and wine pairing is key. So we want wine that are able to sustain the food and also have the elegance if you want to drink them alone. So that's why we always say, it's a LAPOSTOLLE, because some people say, oh, it doesn't taste like Chile. Say, well, it's a Chilean wine, but it has the French essence. And that's why maybe sometimes people say, well, it doesn't really taste like a Chilean wine. Well, because there's the French je ne sais quoi, the French touch that maybe, gives a little something.
I don't know. It tastes like chili to me, but it tastes like really good Chilean wine.
Well, thank you for that. It's what we want, it's usually what I say to people, when you do it with Carménère, you know, when you say we went back to our roots, I think it's even more important when we found out that the Chilean Merlot was actually Carménère, which is the original grape of Bordeaux, the Grand Vidur, and was lost because of phylloxera. And this is really going back to your roots, you know, because you clearly found something that doesn't even exist anymore in Europe. So, and I think, you know, that when you do it properly, Carménère is for me the best grape in the world. You know, it's so smooth, it's so beautiful, it has this little spiciness to it, but it does not tolerate mediocrity. Carménère is a grape that needs to be done at the utmost quality. You need to go for a high quality wine, because if you want to go for entry-level wine at a low price, you need kilos, you need you know, a lot of tonnage. And this means you need to harvest very early. It means you have green nose, you have pyrazine taste, and so on. So Carménère, you cannot have this. And this is maybe what we brought to Chile, is to say, you know, with Carménère, you need to go this way. And that's what we did with then, you know, our wines. And you have a pretty good example today with the Cuvée Carménère, you know, which is
well, let's taste it.
Yeah.
Let's taste it together. It's the 2020 Carménère. A lot of the Carménères, a lot of your Carménère on the market right now is 2019, which was also a great vintage. I'm kind of getting a sneak peek of the 2020s here. But, you know, I was thinking about this morning because I love Carménère also. And I've never been quite sure why it doesn't do well in Bordeaux, since it is from Bordeaux. As you say, it was called in the old days Grand Vidur.
Yeah.
But it found it's like it found its soul in Chile.
But you're going to understand very quickly. And in Chile, and specifically in Apalta, because we have the perfect conditions for Carménère. Look, we're going to taste today a Cuvée Carménère and a Cuvée Cabernet. They come from the same estate, so the Clos Apalta estate, and these are parcel selection within the estate. So literally maybe 100 yards between, you know, like the parcels. We harvested the cab starting March 12th. March 12th. All right. Now we're talking about the same vineyard, 100 yards difference. Guess when we started harvesting the Carménère?
No idea. 30 days later.
Yeah, a month, April 8th. I mean,
wow.
This is insane. You're talking about the same vineyard. I'm not talking about two countries. You know, same vineyard, two different grapes, and you have 30 days difference. The Carménère, it is a grape that needs a lot of time to get to the full ripeness. If you harvest it too soon, if you just look at the bricks level, I know many winemakers, young winemakers today, I'll say, no, we only harvest when we hit, you know, 21 bricks or whatever. The problem is winemaking is slightly more complex, and the grape is a bit more complex than just bricks level. And there is, you know, there's a bit of terpenes, there's a level of tannins, and there's like so many layers. And if you harvest Carménère too soon, you just look at the sugar level, you'll have the sugar level. The problem is you will have a lot of pyrazines, and you have a lot of like the tannins won't be there. You need to wait. And this is what I was saying, you know, you need to wait. The problem is when you wait, you have a bit of dehydration, you have a bit of things. So you lose a lot of kilos, you lose a lot of things, but you get a fully ripe grape. And that's what the secret of making good wines is, to wait for the full maturity of the grapes. And that is the secret. There's no more secret than this, you know.
And
harvest
it was very hard to do in Bordeaux's maritime climate.
And
which
if you do in Bordeaux, you would be harvesting in November. And in November, for the people that had the great luck of being in Bordeaux in November, well, it's raining even more than in England, where I am today. So it's impossible, because then you need to harvest, because you cannot harvest after rain. So,
you know, when I think about this wine, and we're tasting right now again the Cuvée Alexandre Carménère 2020, it doesn't have any pyrazines, and pyrazines are, of course, those sort of green bell pepper compounds. It doesn't have that, but it doesn't have something else that I really like. This is going to sound funny because I'm saying it a bit backwards, but it's not an overtly fruity wine. It doesn't taste only like fruit. There's a real sophisticated, I don't know, dark chocolate and spices and a kind of espresso-iness and forest bark, and those kinds of flavors. I sometimes think that, though I live in California and love it, a wine that is too fruity can come off as a little juvenile, not sophisticated enough. And this has those dark flavors, sort of dark, sophisticated flavors that are just brilliant. I also can't believe, by the way, that it costs what it does, Charles. This is something like a $26 or $27 wine. This is a lot of wine for $26.
Good. Tell this to my importer. They can sell it easily. They can sell it easily more expensive. And they should increase the price. No, but I mean, it's we're very happy with the results, and the thing is what I said at the beginning. We don't want to be a fruit bomb. So we have an oak treatment that is very French. So we have like very we do only French oak barrels, because it gives this treatment a little Nespresso thing, the cafe, the tobacco, and that's really typical. And also we have a very light extraction. So because you have so much fruit that you don't need to extract it more, and that's the key. And also we give them quite a bit of long time in barrels. And we don't use for the cuvee, we don't use much new oak. This is something that has been a bit abused, the new oak at the beginning. So for us, let me tell you exactly. You see, it's only 13 months in barrels, 10% new French oak. So it's not much. And then 90% on second use. So and that is really 20%, 10% for the Carménère, 20% for the Cab. Cab always needs a bit more because of the tannins, so you really need to soften them. But it's what I said, so that's why a lot of people say, well, it tastes a bit like French wine. Yes, but it has the fruit of Chile. So we have the best of both worlds. We have the fruit of Chile, but you have the elegance of French winemaking together.
It is absolutely a beautiful wine, and one of the things that I also appreciate about it is that it's very precise. I sometimes think about wine flavor as like sounds. Who wants to listen to a staticky radio, right? It drives you crazy. It's really nice when something is very exact and very precise, and the flavors come across very purely. And I was reminded of that when you were saying that you're very careful about the oak treatment, because you don't get the sense with this wine that it has a bunch of oak sitting on the top of it, almost smothering the purity of the flavor.
Yeah, it's very well integrated. And what I love about Carménère, for me, like Carménère is my favorite grapes, because it's the smoothness of the wine is amazing. And usually people say, yeah, but how much sugar do you add to it to get this smooth? We're like, we don't, it's our wines. We don't add anything to our wines. It's just that Carménère, properly done, is smooth, is naturally smooth. And you have this a bit of spiciness to it that really amazing. And I think it goes with the American food. I just love it. It really goes well with your food, which is a lot of taste. It's a very tasty American food. So it's a lot of sweet and sour, a lot of spiciness to it. So I love this wine with when I go to the US to pair it with your food.
Yeah, that backdrop of spiciness just gives it a little, I don't know, aliveness, edginess at the back of the wine. Let's go to your Cabernet Sauvignon. Let me hold this up for a minute. This is also a 2020. It too is called Cuvée Alexandre, after your mother. It's also from Apalta. And as you said, it's 100 yards away from the Carménère. This wine, I have to say, I know this wine. We put it in some tastings last year for the Wine Bible. I mentioned price before, but I'm really shocked. This has to be one of the best Cabernets in the world at this price. I mean, if you just gave me this and said, tell me how much this wine costs, I would say it costs twice what it does. It's, again, about $25 or $26, and it easily tastes twice that price.
So while you taste it, I'm just going to address something you said, because it's a common misconception that the name of the wine, the Cuvée Alexandre, is Alexandra, for my mother.
It's not?
it's Alexander, but French, and there's only one letter difference in the way you spell it. In English, it's easier because Alexander in the air at the end. So it's Alexander, because, you know, my mother is not that, she has a big personality, but she won't be as egocentric to name a wine after herself. Maybe when she will pass away, my daughter or me, I will name a wine for her, but usually we wait. You know, the good old French style, you wait to die to have names. So it's Alexander, which is her grandfather, who's the creator of Grand Marnier and the buyer of Chateau de Sancerre. So he's been an inspiration for the family. So she wanted to honor her grandfather, who's been her great grandfather, father, who's been named. So, but everyone thinks it's Alexandra because they say, oh yeah, it's Alexandra, and they don't see it's an E at the end. And because in English it's Alexander ER, people think it's VR. But that's why I'm saying, yeah. So I don't want people to think that my mother has the ego to name a wine after herself. So she's the most humble person I know, and she wouldn't dare to do it. But yeah, so the cuvée, the way L'Apostole is structured is always as the origin of the grapes. So the higher the level, and we're going to finish with La Parcelle, which is a parcel wine. So the grand selection, which is the entry level, is we make a selection in Chile. Usually we try to be in the Colchagua Valley. Then we move to the Apalta wine, which is the Apalta Valley. But then we have different estates, and we buy the grapes from growers in the valley. And then when we get to the cuvée, these are in Apalta, but single estate. So these are our estate, 100% our grapes, and they're single estate. And then the next level is within the estate, one parcel, and that's the parcel reads. So the more you get even more precise on the origin and on the wine where it is, you know. So that's how it's structured. So the Cuvée Alexandre line, you have it's varietals and it's single estate within Apalta, so 100% our grapes, and that's how it's structured. And then of course, next level is La Parcelle, which is a parcel wine from Carménère, from
which we'll get to in a moment, but I want to say that this wine has such terrific structure, right? You sense the tannin in the wine as its structure and what will help it age if you decided to do that. But you don't feel it again. You don't feel it as any kind of aggressivity. It's really delicious, but still a very structured Cabernet.
Well, I think again, you know, it's the Cabernet that we have is mind blowing, and we even use some vines that are planted in 1940 for this one. Old vines that we have, not as old as La Parcelle, but still very old. And these old vines gives you a natural soft tannins and structure in the wines. And then it's the oak treatment. You know, like when you want to give structure to wine, it's all about the oak treatment and having a bit of batonnage, but, you know, don't extract too much. And then 20% new oak. So again, a bit more than the Carménère, because the Cabernet needs this to get the tannins right. But again, not too much, because you need to be careful with by not every grape can sustain more new oak. We have wines like La Parcelle really has a lot of, but then the grapes can sustain it. So you need to understand, and this is the art. This is the art, is to know until which point you can push and respect and know what the grapes can take or not. And that's, at the end of the day, that's art, and that's why winemaking is poetry in a glass. Huh? It's an art, and we have an amazing team, and that really pushes the limits every year.
Now, I'm assuming that because these are from estate-owned vineyards, and because many of the vines are old, and because you're in a small area, and because of Chile's isolation, these vineyards might have been organic their whole life. Is that the case?
Oh, well, they were, you know, the thing is, you never know. And I don't want to say they were organic before, but before we came in, because, you know, conventional agriculture started in the 1950s, 1960s. So you never know. And some people, when they don't really know, you know, when we arrived, they told us that they saw the fact that these vines were old as bad, you know, and they say, yeah, but, you know, they didn't realize what they had. And we're like, are you crazy? This is unique in the world. Yeah, but, you know, it's low yield. You should grub them up and plant again. And then here you can do 20 tons per hectare. And I'm like, well, it's not what we're looking for. We're very happy with the 5 tons here. They say, oh, but it's not enough, but for us, it's plenty. And so
Yeah.
so it always depends on what you want. And that's why in the terroir, in the definition of terroir, the component of the human component is key. It's the sixth component is it's, you know, in the same place, two different people, two different person will do something different. So our goal was to make not just a wine, it was to make one of the best one in the world. And that's why we knew that this place could do it, because these vines were here. And so I could not assure you that these wines were 100% organic. What is sure that they've been for quite a bit, because they were planted very, very early on. We moved to organic farming more than 10 years ago right now. So we've been organic quite a bit. It's not as easy as it seems. It's quite complex actually in Chile. Even if you have, it's a good place to do it, but you have other complexity. So, you know, yes, you don't have pests, but you're also on full decomposed granite, which is very, very zero fertility. So so you have other issues. So when people say, yeah, but for you making organic wine in Chile is easy, no, you know, it's not as easy as it seems. But yes, we do treat them with good care. They're dry farmed, which in Chile is very hard because, you know, it's like dry farming in California. You know, it's when you know the heat, you know the drought, so it's not that easy. But yes, because these vines are so old, they developed roots that are so profound that they can actually look for the water within the phreatic nape. So it's quite impressive.
Yeah, well, I can taste it in the glass. Let's taste your Parcelle, you say wheat.
Yeah, I'm sorry for my friend. The Parcelle 8, the 8 Parcelle, yeah.
Yes.
So vieille vigne, as I say. We could have said très vieille vigne, but we just say, you know, vieille vigne is enough, you know, because.
Yeah, Paul is writing in on the chat saying, just opened a Cuvée Alexandre Cabernet 2013 from a case we bought after a tasting about 5 years ago. And thanks, Paul. It sounds like you're really enjoying it. I can imagine.
Thank you, Paul. Well,
and that's what we like, case wise.
Yeah, the beauty of these wines is that they can actually, if you want, so you can drink them literally young, you know, like it's 2020 and they're drinking beautifully, and that's really where we are actually, I think, I always take a little notch on my friends in France, is that you don't have to wait to drink our wines. You can drink LAPOSTOLLE whenever it's ready, whenever you want, but you can also age them. And that's the beauty of it. If you like aging, which for me, I like personally, I like the evolution of wine. I like the second aromas and the third and so on. So that's me as good geeky, but some people do too, and they can age wines. And to go to your point, Karen, I think having these wines with this aging potential at $25, it's a sweet deal. And I think Paul said, you know, it's Cab 13, so it's almost 10 years. And I'm pretty sure it's still very fruity. It must be starting to go on not just starting to go on the second evolution.
I'm often reminding myself to remind others that even when you don't age a wine, even if you don't age it, the fact that it's capable of aging is a very good sign, because only the great wines of the world are capable of aging. So even if you choose not to, that's okay. But the fact that it could is something that any wine consumer should look for. That is a good thing to look for. Well, let's talk about Parcelle Huître here, because this has to be a very small production. And this is your top wine. It's really intense. Tell us about it.
Well, so again, you know, it's 10 years ago, I wanted to, when I took over the winery from my parents, I wanted to honor them in a way and say, you know, how crazy you must have been. I was young, you know, in 1994, I was like a teenager. And I saw my parents living and going to Chile. It was like, where was that, you know, and the end of the world. And to have the vision to say, you know, in this little place in Apalta, so far away from home, we're going to produce one of the best wine in the world. It takes quite a bit of of guts, and stamina and resilience and so on. And they did it, and they did it. So when I took over, I'm like, you know what? They wouldn't dare to do something to honor them, but I'm like, I'm going to do something. And let's go back to the origin, the first parcel you saw when you arrived. That's really the reason why we're here. It's because you said, we fell in love as soon as we saw it. And so I took the parcel and I'm going to carve it out from, we used to use this wine for Club Alta, and now Club Alta is at a stage where it doesn't really need this. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So that's why the wine just fluctuates, but also it's mainly that the yields are changing. It's old vines. So the yields are changing dramatically from one year to another. So I said, we can carve one parcel out of Club Alta. And we decided to do it, and we started doing it with the 11th vintage, and it was a small production. It was like maybe 1,000, 2,000 bottles, 3,000 bottles, and so on. So like, well, just let's go, just keep it for us and at the vineyard. And then in 15, there was a beautiful year, and we produced a bit more. And I'm like, you know what? Let's just sell it. People deserve to like, some people, like a lot of LAPOSTOLLE fans, want to have this wine. It's a true expression of the cab from Apalta. It's a unique wine, and so this is why with the 15 we decided to release it, and now it's going to be released all the time. It's not made every year, so there's no 19, there's no 16s, because again, it depends. It's old vines, so you're happy when you have a good year. But now we're going to try to release it every year at least. So and that's how we came to releasing La Parcelle 8.
It is a beautiful wine, because you feel and taste its intensity, but it's not overwrought, it's not overdone. There's a kind of restrained, quiet beauty to this, and a very long road, that beautiful arc of flavor. I completely understand that this would be from old vines, because it's not a brash wine. It's almost understated in its beauty, but so intense at the same time. Just a lovely wine. Poof. Fantastic. Absolutely beautiful. And so of this, you probably make a few hundred cases.
Yeah, well, it's less than the most the parcel can produce is 12,000 bottles. That's the only thing we can produce. I'm not sure. We've not seen the year yet where the vines were giving more than 45 hectoliters per hectare. So, but it's plenty. We've never looked for volume in LAPOSTOLLE. What we look is for quality. So, it's a parcel wine. So by definition, there's a limit to it. And that's what we want. It's something very special, and it should be for special people.
Yeah. If we can telescope up for a minute, do you think that that Chile needs more grape wines, and this is an expensive wines like this, to change maybe that lingering old perception of Chile as just a producer of good value wines?
Well, it's you're touching a key point. It's like, for me, I'm like, the more the merrier, So at the beginning, we were a bit lonely with Club Alta and Almaviva and Senia and Dom Melchor, and then some trials are coming on, and people ask you, so you have a bit of competition. I'm like, no, this is a bit of help. It's we need to show that Chile is able to produce many first growth, and the Bordeaux, I think Bordeaux is the whole reputation of Bordeaux is made on the 5 first growth, and we need these. And in Chile right now we're 3, 4 if you're really gentle, and we need more, and also we need more second growth. This is where, because you cannot also have too many first growth, because then you lose a bit of then not everyone can be a first growth. But the second growth layer, yes, and this is where we need to push. At the Cuvée Alexandre layer, at the Cuvée things, we need to push there, because there is the potential. It's just about deciding to do it and then market it in a way that is not just supermarket. And for me, it goes through the beauty of Chile, which is, for me, it's the difference of terroir that you have is stunning. Look, look at the difference between Carménère and Cabernet, and it's a few hundred yards. We have another vineyard called the Licon, 5 kilometers away, 3 miles away, and we have Syrah. I mean, there is so many differences, and that comes with the DO. And for me, I'm a strong believer that Chile should adopt more the DO and have more special DO, because then you become interested and you say, oh, this is a Cabernet from Apalta. Let's compare with a Cabernet from Maipo, or from, but not just Maipo, Puente Alto, and within Maipo, yeah. This will create interest for sommelier to have, in their menu, well, I'm not just going to put just like Chile and blah, 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 but I'm going to put like they do in France, Chile, Colchagua, Apalta, when you have Saint-Emilion, you have Pauillac, you have all the things. So I think this is what Chile needs, because it has and it can do it. So it's a change of paradigm, but it needs the industry to change. And so it's not just us. We're doing our own bit with Apalta. So we're really focusing on Apalta right now, because we truly believe in the DO model. So we are in Apalta, and we're going to do our bit here. And we invite every winery in Chile to understand this, that the future of Chile is really to go and to develop the beauty of the terroir that they have, because there's so many terroir. I cannot think of another country that has so many different terroir in the world.
Well, the idea that it is a country that is governed in a sense by both an enormous mountain range and an enormous ocean. Just that alone tells stories about the varying terroirs and so many different latitudes in Chile.
Yeah, that's the key part. If you take Chile and you put it in the United States, it will go from Alaska to Mexico. And it's a coastal country. It's only 200 miles. So it's a coastal country. So imagine the coast from Alaska so in California, Napa. And imagine in Napa that you have a mountain going, one of the highest mountains in the world. Imagine how that will influence with the ocean coming in. And so that's why Chile is completely crazy when it comes to geography and terroir. But and to just answer the question to Guyane Lalonde, who's asking if we have white Sauvignon Blanc Chardonnay. Yes, we do, but they're not coming from Apalta. Our Sauvignon Blanc come from Requinoa and Chardonnay from Casablanca, because our cooler place and so on. But so that's but we're mainly known for our reds and so on. Yeah.
Charles, I just want to ask you one final question, which is, LAPOSTOLLE is LAPOSTOLLE in Chile is about 30 years old now. So what will the next 30 years bring for LAPOSTOLLE?
Well, it's that's the beauty of winemaking, is that 30 years you're nothing. You're so young. We just starting to understand slightly our vineyards, and to have the back, the say, okay, this is how this parcel behaves in this situation. Situation changes. The current weather and the current climate is really not the same as 94 when my parents started. So what does it mean? Well, it means that we have to adapt. We have to think 30 years ahead. We have to think, what will be the climate in 2050? We're going to plant more than 50 hectares this year, and that triggers a lot of question. We used to have Merlot. Merlot is not really doing well in Chile with the current conditions. It's too dry and it's too hard. Cabernet, of course, but is it? Cabernet maybe should play a bit with I don't know, Grenache, with a bit of starting to use other vineyard, and think ahead. So so that's what we're doing right now, and then it will be all over new, because that will be new varieties. And so we do have Grenache right now, and we're trying to play with this, because it's getting hotter and hotter. It's like California, so you need to think of how vines that can sustain heat, and Merlot is not good for that. So you want to go, and Mediterranean, so Grenache, Mourvèdre, and Cinsault, and Syrah is good too. So this is where you start thinking, blending is going to be key. And I think, even Napa is starting to understand that blending your cab is a good thing because it really helps for the acidity and so on. So yes. And so that's why, that's the beauty, it's not even every 3 years, it's every year is different. So you always, and you cannot really say you really understand your vineyard because conditions are, you can understand it, but this year is so different than last year. And you always wonder, when should I pick up my grapes? I just had, before talking to you, I had an hour and a half with my winemaker in Chile, and she's talking to me about harvest. And like, I don't know if I should pick them this week or maybe next week. And we taste every day, but what am I doing? Acidity levels. This is the beauty, is you're humble by nature every year. And that's why winemaking is so beautiful. You never have, that's it, got it. It's like golf, when you think you got it, the next day you play it away,
Well, I hope it's a little harder than golf, actually. Although
to be a good player of golf, to be the top one in the world in golf is quite hard. But it's just that for all golf players, we know it's like one day you're like, that's it, I nailed it, golf, and the next day you play, you're like, my God, I did not understand anything, so I should go back to practice. So winemaking is quite humbling.
Charles, thank you so much for joining us today. This is
it's my pleasure. My pleasure.
It's been great to talk with you. And I know you are right in the middle of, or about to be right in the middle of harvest. So I wish you a very successful 2022 harvest. And we're going to keep enjoying these fantastic wines. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you for having us. I'm looking forward to having you in Chile. Bye-bye.
Can't wait.
Bye-bye.